Senator Ted Cruz of Texas is set to announce his candidacy for the Republican nomination for president today. So Ted Cruz is going to be the first major candidate to officially announce his campaign for the presidency. He's doing it today in a major speech at Liberty University. Let's analyze his strengths and weaknesses. Let me be very upfront. I am a huge fan of Ted Cruz's speaking style. He's a fantastic speaker. And I think you'll have a very hard time finding any honest public speaking coach differ with you on that. He brings passion to his subject matter. He walks around. You never see him get locked behind a lectern. He speaks in a conversational way. You certainly don't see his head buried in notes, reading a prepared text or PowerPoint or anything like that. He really is a very compelling, captivating speech. I still remember the first time I saw him speak at the 2012 Republican Convention. It was quite a memorable experience. I remember at the time thinking, wow, this guy is probably going to run for president. So let's assess Ted Cruz, not only his speaking, but his other political assets. He's a great public speaker. That's a huge asset when running for president. He's very smart, by all accounts. His professors at Harvard Law School, at Princeton, his fellow students think the guy is truly brilliant in terms of sheer IQ. That is helpful when you're running for president. He's shown he can raise a lot of money. He has run and won in a huge, significant electoral vote-rich state like Texas. And he's from a state that has produced presidents before, some as recently as George W. Bush. So Ted Cruz has many strengths in his camp as a presidential candidate. So when you're looking at this on paper, you would say, well, Ted Cruz is obviously a top-tier presidential candidate on paper. Here's the one big problem for Ted Cruz as the presidential candidate. Everybody hates him. Now, folks, some of you may think I'm just being partisan. Here's my challenge to you. Go to Google right now and type in the phrase, Republicans hate Ted Cruz. And just read the handful on the first page. What you'll find is more than 500,000 citations pop up on Google. This is of Republicans hating Ted Cruz. Now, it's all well and good to say, well, anyone who's president has enemies and people in the other party are going to dislike him. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about within the party. Now, if you were to just type in Google, hate Ted Cruz, it practically breaks the internet. You've got 5-6 million websites and links and citations that pop up. Here's the problem for Ted Cruz. There simply isn't any historical data, certainly in the last 60 years, of a Republican or a Democrat getting a nomination to the party when that person is just immensely disliked by the mainstream and the elite of the party. There just isn't any precedent to that. People who get party nominations are generally liked, sometimes loved, but certainly respected by members of their party. Now, the closest thing anyone could come to would be 1968 Richard Nixon, who certainly was not a lovable figure, but he was liked by a lot of, it's hard to imagine this now, but Richard Nixon certainly was liked by a lot of Republicans throughout the country, and he was definitely respected for his hard work, his tenure as vice president under Eisenhower. So that's the real problem I see with Senator Ted Cruz as a presidential candidate. He's wildly disliked by members of his own party, and there simply is no precedent for someone like that to win. His favorable, unfavorable ratings are essentially the same. You can't have an unfavorable rating as high as Ted Cruz's and get the nomination. I've simply never seen it done. So the problem when people ask someone like me to rate presidential candidates, we tend to look at it through a particular prism. Hey, I'm a public speaking media training expert. I look at people through the lens of public speaking. The problem with that is you can artificially overrate someone like a Ted Cruz. Public speaking is important for a political candidate. Certainly Barack Obama, Ronald Reagan would not have become president without Bill Clinton, without wildly superior public speaking skills. But there's more to it than that, friends. I'm afraid Senator Ted Cruz doesn't have it. If he's sworn into office come January 2017, I'll be the first to eat my words. I'm TJ Walker. What do you think? Post your comments.